Hey everybody, I'm Danny Reba, and you are watching Roll for Tentacles. Today's video, we're going to be going over the top 5 new board games that I played in 2025. So these are games that not necessarily came out in 2025, but were new to me and the first time that I played them. I'm not including anything that I played on Board Game Arena. While I may have played some of these on Board Game Arena, I also only included games that I've played in person. So with that, let's head to the list. So first off, I wanted to give an honorable mention to Harmonies. Harmonies is a great kind of like a tile placement game. You're actually placing these discs to create a habitat, and then you're getting these cards of animals that want to live in certain habitats. So it's a puzzle style game where you're trying to figure out how to align these habitat tokens on your board and then how you can use the creature cards to put the cubes from them on your habitats to maximize the way that you're going to score points at the end. It does have a little bit of player interaction because there is a central area where those animals are. So if somebody else takes the animal you want before you can get to it, it may change your plan around that you have to have. But for the most part, it is very solitaire in the way that you're kind of creating your board and trying to make sure you are putting the right habitats in the right places to have the right creatures score when you need them to. It's just such a pleasant game. It's got a great look. It has just the right amount of complexity where you feel like you are really engaged with everything you're doing. And looking at the habitat you're building is just such a visually enjoyable experience. I think it's just got the right blend of puzzliness, complexity, table presence. It's also not a very big game, so it's really easy to kind of pick up and play. It just barely didn't make the top 5 list. But with that being said, at number 5, I'm going to have to put Raw. Raw is an older game that recently had a newer version come out. I don't think they changed anything about the gameplay, but either it was a re-release or they just kind of upgraded some components. But it's a bidding game. It's very simple to play. There's basically a bunch of tiles in the center of the board that are going to be progressively added to a track. And whenever you are ready to bid, you will slam down this kind of central piece. And at that point, the bidding begins. Everybody has one chance to bid based on the number of tiles that you have on your board. And once you bid, that number, if you win the bid, can no longer be used and goes into the center and swaps with the center number because you play it over a series of rounds. And based on what numbers you end up with in the first round, you'll have to use those in the second round. And based on what tiles you're bidding on, there's a variety of ways to score points, whether it be from unique tiles that you're trying to collect from a certain set, whether it be from, multiplying the number of tiles you have of a certain type. So you're kind of trying to figure out what your opponents are going to want to bid on and what you need to bid on and how much you want to really push and pull on that. And there are just so many great layers to this game where even if you have lower numbers to bid with, that means you can kind of force the bid to begin. And if you are just the one always forcing the bid to begin, everybody else is kind of put in this weird position where they kind of have to make a decision on whether they want to commit their numbers or not. Obviously, if you have the high numbers, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to win a bid, but you're really only going to be able to do that once around. It's just got like the perfect amount of design space for a bidding game, which I really, really enjoy. I think it's simple. I think the components, especially in this kind of newer edition, are very tactile and just feel really good. And it really feels like just a classic game that every time it hits the table, everybody that I've played it with just has a blast. So definitely have to have that at number 5. For number 4, Vagrant Song. So, Vagrant Song is a campaign game where you are playing these vagrants traveling on this boxcar, confronting haints, which are essentially these spirits that have not moved on to the other side. And so you're trying to get them to remember their humanity. It's basically a boss battler. Every person in this game is playing a different asymmetrical character, and all the characters just have really, really interesting mechanics. They have kind of the characters you would expect from a boss battler game, but they're all really well designed and have a really fun art style that is similar to like the Cuphead art style or, the old school like Mickey Mouse cartoons. And I think that's a really, really fun design. But it also has kind of a serious story that gets a little dark at times because you're confronting these spirits who have had these things happen to them and you're trying to get them to get laid to rest and find peace. So it's got a really, really good story. The scenarios are really interesting. The bosses are really well designed and kind of make you think differently each time you combat them. And the action system is really interesting. You're basically going to have a number of discs that you can assign to your character's actions. And some of the actions are basic actions, some of them are going to be skills that they have. And depending on what you commit to them, you're then going to roll dice. And depending on what you roll on the dice, you'll get successes, which then determine how successful your action is going to be. That's the very, very, very basic version of the game. There are a lot more mechanics in it that I think really elevate this to an interesting boss battler that doesn't take a ton of time to play, but still has a lot of interesting depth and complexity, and just enough of that campaign storyline to really keep you hooked. Okay, so number 3 on the list is going to be a game called Stone Spine Architects. And this is a game where you are drafting cards and creating your own dungeon. Just like other drafting games, you're going to pass along cards and you're going to pick one and then commit it to your board. But the cards all have pathways, and depending on how you're building your dungeon, you're trying to connect the pathways to different areas, to different environments. Each card has a different couple symbols on it, and depending on what the scoring conditions for the round are, you're trying to get those symbols on your cards. It doesn't do anything revolutionary, but I think that it just has a great theme that just has a great look to it as well. It has a couple really interesting aspects to it where you can also bid on icons that you can then add to your cards. So even if you draft something and it's not a perfect fit for what you're trying to build in your dungeon, you can still bid on getting symbols and icons that you can then put on those cards that then will help them generate the points that you want to get at the end of the game. It's a quick game. I would say it's 30 to 45 minutes long. There are different scoring conditions you can get. It kind of scales up really well with different players. And again, I think the theme is just really, really fun. There is something just so great about assembling those cards and seeing your dungeon when it's completed, so that even if you didn't win, you get to put something together that just looks really fun. I think it just is a really fun game, really easy to teach, really easy to pick up and play, a really good game to play between other heavier games, and it does have that hook where you just want to keep coming back for more to try out what the next game might offer from it. All right, number 2 is called Sleeping Gods. This is a campaign game where you are playing as the crew of a ship that has discovered this area that they don't understand and are trying to learn about it so they can figure out how to get back home. And it is an open world game, and I do mean it is open world. I personally have never experienced a board game as open world as Sleeping Gods. It comes with a very well designed series of maps in a book, and you will basically have your ship on certain areas and choose where you want to move your ship as you progress through the story. And you could go almost anywhere. The game uses a really smart keyword system where, as you go to areas and discover new adventures, you'll get these keywords. And when you visit certain areas, it will say, hey, do you have this keyword? If you do, you can take this action. If you don't, you may not be able to do anything there, or you may get a minor action that you get to do, or kind of a minor adventure that you go on. As you go to locations and figure out what keywords you need and then discover them later, you'll go back to those first locations, and then you'll figure out these new adventures that you can go on and these new storylines you can uncover. And it's just amazing how much thought went into that. The game has a really, really fun combat system too, where when you get into a combat with something, you can choose where to put the damage that you're dealing on cards. And depending on what icons you're covering up on them, you're going to weaken enemies in certain ways. You'll have to defeat enemies by putting the damage icons on certain areas. It's just got a really, really fun system where, especially when you're playing with multiple players, there is a very tactical element to it where you're all working together to figure out what character should go when, where the damage should be put on the cards, how to resolve the combat in the most efficient way that you can while working with the tools and characters that you have. And that brings me to another point about this. I think the cast of characters you get is really well done. They're a little one dimensional at times, but there's so many of them, and they all kind of bring certain strengths and abilities to the gameplay that I think they all end up feeling pretty fleshed out, and you get really attached to them and don't want anything bad to happen to them as you're going through the storylines that you discover. I think it's just got a lot of stuff going on in it that all works really well. The game is just super well thought out. There's sense of adventure that you get while playing it is second to none. I've never again, experienced a game that has this much open world content that truly feels like you are discovering new things every time you play. It's just an amazing feat. And even after we beat the game, I think we had only uncovered, I don't know, maybe 20% of what there was to do. And there's so many different storylines and routes you can take that it has a lot of replayability as well. And I think it's just a really, really great game and a great system that they've put together. And I'm really happy to play that and experience that in 2025. All right. And for my number one, it was kind of a surprise pick. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I looked up a few things online about it. It kind of felt like it was going to be the right game for me, but it really, really hit home. It is probably one of my top 5 games of all time right now, and that is gonna be Joyride Turbo. So Joyride Turbo is a game where you are playing a racer in kind of a death race sort of situation. There is a board that's going to be laid out. You are playing a racer. It's very asymmetrical because all the racers have little different quirks and powers to them. And as you move around this track, you are trying to hit, a number of laps just like a typical racing game, but you can get weapons, you can knock into your opponents. There is kind of this encouragement to really ruin your opponent's plans by really getting in their way, and I really appreciate that part of the gameplay. You can also cross the finish line in any way that you want. The way the game works is there are actually checkpoints, and as long as you cross, all those checkpoints, whether you are backing through them, whether you're going through them sideways, whether you're going through them straight on, it counts. There's so many creative ways that people can figure out how to do that. The gameplay is also very, very simple, but has a lot of depth as well. You're going to roll some dice and then you're going to commit those dice to your dashboard. And that's going to be how many spaces that you can move. You can also only turn once. So you have to figure out how to move and then also figure out when you want to turn your car so that you avoid a collision or going straight into a wall or something. You can pick up items, you can pick up weapons that will do a variety of things, and each racer has a really unique way that they play that kind of adds to the asymmetry and gives you some really unique ways to go against your opponents. To me, this feels like the perfect in between spot between Heat, Pedal to the Metal, and Thunder Road Vendetta. Both those games are really, really critically acclaimed racing games for different reasons. And I think Joyride Turbo really hits the middle of those two games for me, where you have to think tactically because you're trying to figure out, where do I want to position myself? What kind of dice do I want to lock in on my board when I roll them? When do I want to make my turn? When do I want to use my character moves? But it has a little bit of that chaos from Thunder Road Vendetta, where you are rolling dice and you don't really know what you're going to get. And you're also trying to ram in your opponents and cause some chaos when it makes sense. So to me, Joyride just has such a good blend of chaos, tactics, and just such a good time. I mean, every time we brought this to the table, everybody I was playing with was laughing. We were having a great time. Just some truly ridiculous situations, and the characters in it are just so fun. And the game has a ton of replay value. I mean, the Turbo Edition has a ton of different maps in it, a ton of different game modes in it, and I haven't even tried most of them. I've only tried the core mode and a couple of the different maps, but you could easily play through so many different modes in this and still have so much more content left to explore. So I really have to give it up to Joyride. I think this game is just a huge milestone when it comes to racing games, when it comes to kind of reliving that car combat that I really enjoy from stuff like Twisted Metal and kind of those old school games like Burnout, where you're really trying to be aggressive to your opponent, but again, still has the tactics of trying to make sure you are keeping yourself on the right path that's going to take you to victory. So, those were my top 5 games from 2025. There were a ton that I wish I could have put on there because I did play a lot of really great games in 2025, and I'm really looking forward to what 2026 brings, but these 5 games are stellar, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to play them. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'm sure that it will be another great year for board games in 2026 and tabletop RPGs as well, and we'll be trying to make as much content as we can covering our adventures through them. Thank you so much.